forgot my comics.
I got your comics right here!
West Coast DAVEngers, creepy comic book guy in your hotel room.
Hey man, I'm Dave Correia, the other half of West Coast DAVEngers, the better half as people say. I have a stack of books here that I'm going to show you, and they're totally mine, not yours, not for sale.
I'm Dave.
I'm Dave.
No, I'm Dave.
I was probably Dave first though. I was the first Dave.
But I am King David. I am a descendant of the first David.
I'm Dave the Elder, son of Edmund from Louisiana, House of New Orleans.
Oh, well, I'm Dave.
And I'm Dave.
And we're the West Coast DAVEngers. We got our first tag team episode today. Dave Correia, the co-founder of the West Coast DAVEngers, yes, and creator of Nightmares and also Feral Cats. Dave's going to go through books that he found in the Bay Area since the inception of the West Coast DAVEngers.
So we started West Coast DAVEngers, I want to say in May, and that was a really fun trip up the West Coast. Tons of comic shops, antique stores, all those things. Since then, we've been hunting for comics on our own and finding like these tips and tricks that we kind of share, how to like get collections, how to find books. And these are books I have found since our first trip. So these ones I found on my own this summer, probably in the span of about 2.5 or 3 months in the Bay on my little excursions, just kind of my comic hunting in general.
Estate sales, garage sales,
flea markets. Yeah, that's pretty much the 3 things I hit up on a regular basis as often as I can. And you know, sometimes you don't find anything, but sometimes you do. And what's good about this stack particular is that I don't think I spent more than like $2 to $3 per book on anything here. That's part of like our whatever mantra is, like when you're hunting comics, like they're out there, be patient, and you can just like find these kind of like rad books that are just in the wild. So it's changed the way I buy comics. The hunt, the excitement of like pulling a cool book out of a bin or out of a shoebox sometimes.
Estate sales, definitely. You had more luck this year with estate sales. I only found, that was the first estate sale that I had found that had comics since you turned me on to estate sales.
Yeah.
And I remember it was like every week you're like, dude, I'm going to this estate sale and I found these books. Yeah, take it away. Let's see what you got. X won't give it to you.
Yeah, off the top, like this is a book that when we started West Coast DAVEngers, I was kind of looking for this book. I couldn't find it in comic shops, and if I did, it was expensive. But I found these at a flea market for like $2. And this is the first Omega Red. It's Jim Lee artwork.
He's always been a wildly popular character.
And Omega Red's pretty cool too. Like he's one of those villains that's actually like a cool design.
Is he a Weapon X?
He is Weapon X.
Yeah, here's your Weapon X program. Yeah.
This is when Weapon X was starting to get other characters kind of pulled. Like there was Maverick,
that's right.
Omega Red, and that's a cool cover too.
Yeah.
I love anything with Wolverine on it. Like Wolverine's like my favorite character. So to see just having like this vicious looking Wolverine with like that just Omega Red hand, super cool. Love it.
It's definitely a perfect teaser to a big villain.
Found these in the same bin. This is a first Apocalypse, and this is he's made into Archangel. Yeah, so he's given like the razor sharp
and that's
wings.
his first cover.
It's a book I never had, and I like the cover. It's like one of those ones you kind of see like a lot in comic shops and stuff. And
I don't like the way that Apocalypse looks on the cover.
It's not a good drawing of Apocalypse because he's better looking than just that. That's just a kind of a weird like yelling face. Now this is a book that I found.
Talk about how you got it.
I found a comic book shop that was mostly games, mostly tabletop gaming, Dungeons and Dragons, that type of stuff. They had some comics that were like labeled, that had the prices on it. Like, there's a bunch of boxes below their labeled boxes. I'm like, hey, can I go through these? He's just like, oh yeah, those aren't priced. We just got that collection in. If you see anything you want, bring it up and we'll price it out for you. I'm like, okay, sounds great. So I'm flipping through it and I see this book, Silver Surfer #4. At first, I thought probably too good to be true. You know, I'm just like, this can't be right. So I pull it aside and I bring it up. Hey, you know, how much is this book? He's like, oh, let me check. And he pulls out like an old Overstreet price guide. And he's just like, yeah, you know, it looks a little bit low end. I'll do it for $100. I'm just like, okay. So I bought it for $100, worth way more than that, but it's also a really just amazing book. Cover. Such an iconic cover, iconic art.
There is no more iconic cover with either of them on it.
The dark background with the purple, like, you know, lightning and the rainbow, like what's it called, the rainbow bridge. The
Bifrost. The Bifrost.
Yes. The way that Surfer is meeting Thor and like they're about to clash, his hammer's pulled back. It's such an amazing drawing. Like I got into comics because of art. Like I do art illustration, and art speaks to me in such a way. And this book, when I saw it, it just It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard people talk about how this cover is, in a design sense, like a perfect design.
Oh, and the composition's incredible. Yeah.
Speaking of iconic, Secret Wars number 8.
The origin of the black Spidey suit. Yeah.
Yeah, Spider-Man gets his black suit.
I got one of these on West Coast DAVEnger, and then one of them I got at a garage sale a few weeks later. And this was a book I wanted for a long, long time, and I happened to get two, like, just, I think within the next, like, 3-week period.
Yeah, it was less than a month.
Yeah, one's newsstand, one's perfect, or one's direct. Super, another iconic cover. I mean, like, how, like, the bright orange, the black character.
This is as about iconic for the 80s as you can get. Like, used to see this book all the time and like, oh, that's cool to have, but it was still a $25-$30 book as opposed to the $200 to $300 to $400, whatever it is now. But
it's pricey now for sure, and out of the Secret Wars run, it's definitely the most expensive one. When you find something in a garage like this, you're just like, it's like this almost like surreal moment where you're just real.
So the funny thing, Dave, about these Secret Wars is that at the beginning of May, neither of us had this.
Right, and it was a book we both wanted too.
Yeah. And by the end of the summer, we each had gotten 2. And that's just wild.
My favorite artist is Art Adams. He's just amazing. The amount of work he can cram into one panel, the iconic work he's done for Fantastic Four, what he's done for comics is just so cool. I never was a big fan of Longshot, but I love these comics, and what's cool about this book is it's Mojo's first appearance, and Mojo is awesome.
Yeah,
he is a weird character, and he's got like weird TVs and like weird bio.
He's got like those things that hold his eyes
the
open.
The eye thing is always creepy, and I think that's something that I draw a lot of, is like weird bulging eyes, and I think that comes from like the Mojo. I never had these, and I don't have the entire series. I think it's like 5. It's 6 books.
Yeah, 6.
Yeah, so I'm definitely looking out for the other ones.
I got 2. I got at least 1 or 2 for you. Though.
Ooh, nice.
That just means I'm gonna get that Ultimate Fallout for free. Wait, what book?
Oh, this is a book I found at a garage sale, and it's that kind of moment when you're going through comics and you see number 1, number 2, number 3, and you're just hoping for number 4, and you find it, and this is it. This is the second printing, Ultimate Fallout 4, which is the first Miles Morales. He is, if you've seen Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse, yes. Into the Spider-Verse is the Miles Morales Spider-Man movie.
Amazing movie, and he is an amazing Spider-Man. Really cool book. Really cool to find it in the wild too. Like, this is one I paid $1.50 or $2 for.
Man, I found so many Ultimate Fallout 1s and 2s and 3s this year. Some 6s or 5s, and just never. It's funny because that second printing variant cover has a lot of collectors desire that one more because it shows his face.
Yeah, so the first printing, his face is hidden behind the black bar here.
Yeah, we're super stoked that you got this, and kind of want it.
Yeah. This is a book I got at a garage sale. This is the first Bullseye, Daredevil 131. It's a pretty funny appearance. Bullseye throws a pen at a mob boss from 2 feet away and kills him. And you think he'd throw the pen from farther away? I mean, he's Bullseye. I'm sure he can probably throw it like 50 yards and hit the guy in the neck. But no, he throws it from 2 feet away, kills the guy. So.
I can hit a Bullseye from 2 feet away. Does that make me a supervillain?
Yeah. So when I saw it in a stack, I'm just like, oh my god, like that is the first Bullseye. So I picked it up.
I think you're really holding on to that book just to piss your brother off.
I know, my brother's a big Daredevil fan. I told him I'd trade him it, but he needs to give me some good trade. I'm a sucker for yellow covers also. I love the yellow covers.
Mustard.
Yeah, mustard. Yeah, this is definitely a hot dog. Ketchup and mustard on there. Yeah. This is Fantastic Four number 57. I found at a garage sale, and I found it with Dave here. Dr. Doom steals Silver Surfer's cosmic powers, and he does it in kind of like a bumbling way. He's like giving Silver Surfer like a tour of his lair. He's like, oh yeah, these are the killing machines, and those are like my workers, and over there's the window. And Surfer's all, oh really? And Doom like puts like these things on Surfer's ears and like tests his cosmic powers. It's like he just like duped him. Really silly story, worth reading for sure. Dave and I were at a comic book shop like a night before, and I saw this book on the shelf. I'm like, oh, that's a book I've always kind of wanted. I love the cover. It's a Kirby cover. I love like these like bold compositions where like it's a big figure, like a big head, and all the main characters around him. It was like $60, I think, and it was really in like beat up shape. And then like the next day, and I found it in a bin for $2. So I got this for $2, and I almost bought it the night before for $60.
Yeah. One would call it an art effect. Woo!
These are both books that I got for free because they were just equally as beat up. Avengers number 16. This is an old Kirby book. Maybe I paid $1 for this at a garage sale.
Yeah.
This is Astonishing Tales, I think 34, and it's the second appearance of Ant-Man. And because it had no cover, I got it for free. This is just to show you that like these books are out there, man.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Tell us about the flea market to end all flea markets. I will interject with the story about my week before this.
One of my favorite finds was at a flea market out in the Bay Area, and I came across a box, and it was all Todd McFarlane. And as you know,
when you see Todd, you buy Todd.
Right. Now, I love Todd McFarlane. I've been a huge fan of him since when I was a kid. I got hooked on Todd McFarlane on his ASM run towards the end. I was hooked on Todd. When you're young and you see how he draws, you just can't not love him. And he's just amazing. So
Amazing Spider-Man was the first. Yeah, was the first time I saw his work too. And what is this?
How is he drawing him like that? Like he was the guy who put Spider-Man's legs above his head and just like everything was so dynamic. You know?
were seeing something that you grew up knowing in a completely different way.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I would totally trace McFarlane's comics. If you look at some of my old comics, you can see where like I would put tracing paper over it and you can see the indentation lines because I would just redraw McFarlane's work. I mean, that's how I did with a lot of comics. Anyway, I came across this long box and it was some Spawn stuff, McFarlane stuff. A lot of the books I didn't have. I have quite a few McFarlane books, but I don't have Dave's collection. First things I saw were his books from Coyote. Now, this is Todd McFarlane's first published artwork. And when we go on our comic trips, we always see coyotes in the wild. We always see them in the antique stores, but you always see, number 4, number 6, number 15,
number 1 and 2.
12. Yeah, these are the ones, if you're a McFarlane collector, you want to get. Number 13 is the first cover, and it's actually this part down here that he did was the cover.
Yeah, that's the first published cover art. So Coyote 11 through 14 would be the first time his art was published, and Epic Comics was like a small label, but Marvel owned it. So technically it's Marvel, but
yeah.
This book, I remember getting this book on eBay for $6 when I first found out about it. That's $100 and something book now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. The guy who had this collection, he was very well aware of what he had. Like, he was a comic collector, and he was just trying to basically offload his collection. He didn't really want it anymore. He was selling his stuff and his father's stuff. It's just kind of cool to have a piece of history. Also in that bin is McFarlane's first Hulk.
Incredible Hulk 330.
Yes.
McFarlane did a run from 330 to 344, I believe. When he left DC and started doing Incredible Hulk for Marvel, and then during his Incredible Hulk run is when he started doing Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So he was doing both books at the same time, but this is the first McFarlane Incredible Hulk.
And his work got progressively insanely good. Because if you look at this cover, it's okay, but it's not like a McFarlane cover. You know, I don't know what that is. Maybe he's trying to kind of conform to what he thinks might be a good Hulk cover or whatever, but during the Hulk run, they got insane.
Yeah, and then you skip ahead 10 issues.
Behind this book was this book. Now, this book, I mean, look, this is just a 10-issue difference. I don't want to take anything away from this book, but how iconic does a McFarlane cover get? He's done so many iconic covers, but this one right here has been on posters, T-shirts.
It's everywhere.
I mean, it's
just look at his first Hulk page and look at this cover. It's like two different people. It's wild.
And 10 issues, I mean, less than a year apart,
Yeah. Nobody had ever drawn anything like this with Wolverine and the Hulk. It's such a simple thing when you think about it in hindsight, but nobody ever did it before.
Yeah, it's cool. It's just a very creative way to show both characters, but only having one character.
And two characters that have such a history.
Yeah.
Wolverine's first appearance was battling the Hulk.
Also in that bin were a bunch of ASM books, and that's when I first saw McFarlane when I was a kid. And there are a lot of books that I don't have from that have gotten really expensive. And it's nice to find these books for a couple bucks. This is McFarlane's first appearance on Spider-Man.
First appearance of Eddie Brock and the first McFarlane artwork on Spider-Man.
This is a book I never had as a kid. I was super happy to find this one. It's in great condition, and it's also a newsstand. This is also a cover that's been kind of swiped by him a couple times. Spawn 298 did that, right?
It's funny, Spawn 298 did that. I was watching an interview with McFarlane, and he talked about how he did not want to use the black suit. He's like, I don't want that suit. He's like, I want to do the iconic Spider-Man.
Oh, really?
And he settled with, fine, I'll do this That's kind of what prompted the creation of Venom.
Oh.
It's because he didn't want to draw the black suit.
He just passed it on to another character.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. That's super cool. All right, so got number 299 also, which is the first cameo of Venom. Yeah, so Venom's in the back, or on the last page. And I think he's like silhouetted maybe?
No, he's full one page of Venom on the last page. Open it up.
Yeah, let's look at it.
Yeah, it says, "Honey, I'm home," or something like that, because he breaks into Peter and Mary Jane's apartment, and Mary Jane walks in, and Venom's there. Boom.
Oh, yeah. That's so cool.
So they consider that a cameo? That's not a cameo.
That's a full Venom.
That's a full Venom.
I mean, he's actually
That would
on
be
the
a
previous
cameo.
page too.
This is a newsstand. That's a direct. These issues are in for white covers. They're just in such beautiful shape.
This is another book I wanted for a long time. 301. I love this cover. It's actually a bite of 300.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
300 and 301. If you
They're
hold them
the
side by
same-
side, they're the same composition. They're the same
pose.
circle and everything like that. So this is like, I guess, like the white version. I mean, of the comic
And
ways.
that was him doing the suit he wanted to draw.
Yeah, he's like finally got his to do his red and blue suit.
But even so, like the classic red and blue suit, and then he reinvented the whole thing.
Yeah.
Just putting so much more line work on there, and oh god, it just makes me so happy to talk about Todd McFarlane.
These two are some of my favorites also. But he had two of these, and I got them because this is my favorite McFarlane cover. I can't think of one that might be better than this across all of his titles. This cover is just amazing. Everything from the color, the line work, the composition. I mean, I love the magenta and the how bold Venom is on there. It's such an amazing
vicious
drawing. Yeah, and like I mean, there's blood on his hands. Like you didn't see that in comics.
No.
I mean, at least in Marvel, you didn't see like a lot of blood, especially on the cover. This was actually one of the first comics I bought as a kid. I bought it for like, I think it was $1.
Venom is a character that gets introduced in 299, 300. He doesn't have his first full cover until 316, and he's already wildly popular. This is truly the debut of Venom to the people that haven't been reading this. You're seeing Venom for the first time if you're not reading Amazing Spider-Man. And just look at that image.
Yeah, so menacing. I love this cover. And this cover is another one that's been on posters, on shirts, on anything that Marvel kind of like licensed at the time. This cover was really
They can make money on it.
Yeah.
This image was on there. Stickers, cards. Crazy thing about this huge bounty that Dave found at a flea market. The previous week, I had gone to a garage sale in Seattle with a buddy of mine. And we walked up to that garage sale, and it was 4 long boxes, and every single McFarlane comic from Marvel was in there. And my buddy who came with me got an Amazing Spider-Man 300. I got one of these. I got the Hulk 340. I grabbed every Amazing Spider-Man that wasn't taken out of that box by my buddy Joe. I grabbed all the Hulks, and it was like in the course of 7 days, we got 3 of these combined.
Yeah.
And 2 of the Hulks. It's just wild to think that the universe kind of planted these things in our path.
Yeah. We're when I got one, you got one. When you got one, I got one.
Yeah. And the only thing that I will ever admit to being jealous of is the last book Dave's going to show you that he got from that flea market.
So this book was in the bin also, but it wasn't even bagged. It was just loose. And I think part of that is because of what this book really is.
And that's Malibu Sun.
Number 13. It was a free book when it came out. It was the book that you would get at a comic book shop when you bought a bunch of stuff. They'd be like, oh, here's your preview book of what's going to be coming out. This book is important for a few reasons. First of all, it's the first published Spawn cover, for sure. There is some Spawn stuff that was in the back of some other older books.
Yeah, like Rust number 1.
Yeah.
And maybe there's one other, Robotech 2, The Sentinels number 13 or something like that.
Yeah, it's also a super old Spawn logo that McFarlane drew when he was a kid.
Yeah.
If you go online, you can see his old Spawn drawings when I think he was like 13 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. Because it was free, not many were kept. It was just one of those things you looked at it, and you probably threw it away. Or maybe you put it somewhere and it got thrown with other things, a stack somewhere,
I don't remember ever having that, but I remember having some of the Malibu Suns. Probably the Youngblood one and the Wildcats one.
I had the Pit one, I know that.
This image is the image that's on Spawn number 1, but that's the painted cover. So McFarlane drew this in 1992, but it was repurposed, I guess you could say. This is the painting on Spawn number 1. So I would almost guess that this was going to be the original cover to Spawn number 1. And I think that's what leads it to be as collectible and as desirable as it is. This is the only time this image was published.
Yeah. Anybody can get a Spawn one in a comic book shop because they're just available. It's hard to find this. Like this, as far as like Spawn Grails kind of go, like the harder to find Spawn
This is
stuff, like
it.
the origin stuff. This is pretty much it.
Plus, also, can we talk about how awesome it is that they made the cover color to almost match the Spawn logo? Like,
Yeah.
it looks fucking cool.
Yeah, it's a cool looking cover, yeah.
Yeah, this screams 1992.
It does. That Malibu Sun logo just feels like 90s.
I want this. I
Yeah.
don't have this. Holy
that.
shit, that's a giant spider over there.
What the
Yoink!
hell?
See ya!
These are the books that I got in the last like 3 months or so. I found these just looking, being patient, being persistent. Yeah, the books are out there.
Put in the time,
Yeah.
you know, we're not going to tell you where our fishing holes are. You live somewhere in this country, you can find these books. And if you
Yeah.
don't live somewhere in this country, you could probably find rarer books.
Yeah.
Like if
yeah.
you're in Scotland, you got to go to the Highlands.
Yeah.
Hey, what a great
Cool bounty.
bounty.
Yeah.
We are the West Coast DAVEngers. Next week on the West Coast DAVEngers, we're all going to die. Don't listen to this fucking guy. Stop.
We're filming.